been doing nothing but drinking and thinking, yeah. Oh, since you've been away.
DJ Payne 1.
Oh, come on.
I don't think that I'm coming back. Boy, I told you I'm done with that. You think you can do me so wrong. I'm not the one, no, I'm not the
Yo, how do you even start the show after what we just witnessed, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ricardo. Welcome on into the Space Cowboy Show. And for the first time since 1969, the Dallas Cowboys have had a tie with the Green Bay Packers of all teams. I cannot believe that after all we went through, that game ended in a tie. And I don't want to jump the gun. If Jack Sanborn's dumb ass just turned around, we were this close to winning, guys. It was either like a tie or a win. But the thing is that, and I say this all the time, every single video, and we have to talk about it again in today's game. You can't expect to win football games when your defense puts up 40 points. You can't win. Like, if your offense has to put up 40 points just for you to have a chance to win, that's embarrassing. There were plenty of things that I really liked about this game offensively, and what we saw, like, the Cowboys kind of grow up a little bit and seeing Brian Schottenheimer finally understand a couple things. But we're going to get into that in just a moment. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Before we get further into tonight's recap, or really it's midnight on the East Coast, if you haven't done so already, please hit the like button. If you're watching this on Twitter/X, you can hit the like there. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, easy to do. And also follow me on Twitter/X as well. If you haven't done so, please hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the recaps of the shows. And finally, if you want to support the channel further, you have the join button on the YouTube side of things if you want to support what I do here. And also check out all the Kretschman Media shows on the network. Okay, so with the pleasantries out of the way, I mean, I'm just flabbergasted at what we just witnessed. The Dallas Cowboys were at a point where they were down 13-0. Their special teams unit had a kick return, or excuse me, a field goal or extra point. God, I can't even. There's so much going through my head right now. The extra point was blocked, leading to a 2-point conversion in favor of the Cowboys, which surprisingly was extremely important. It got them a lot of momentum. And I'll give a shout out to James Houston. James Houston had an impressive play that completely shifted the momentum of the game. After the Cowboys went on a 90-yard scoring drive by Dak Prescott, keeping it himself, getting in the end zone, James Houston with a huge turnover to allow the Dallas Cowboys to capitalize before the end of the half and possibly double dip, which is crazy to say the least. They could have triple dipped if they had scored on the opening possession. Now, with that in mind, one of the key things is that as we look at this game, the big takeaway, as we're going to go, I'm going to start with the positives. I don't want to get into negative Nancy stuff first, because we're going to get there. I need to give a huge shout out to number 4, man. Rain Dakota Prescott was the man tonight. When you look at his statistics, 31 for 40, 319 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and he was sacked 1 time by Micah when he was trying to run into the end zone with a 124.9 passer rating. Dak Prescott was a huge reason why you were even in this game. Dak was a huge reason why you even had a chance to win the game, not only at the end of the fourth quarter, but even in overtime. People are going to complain, oh, they should have, scored and got in the end zone. I understand that, and I agree there. But this is my point. It should have never gotten there. In fact, you should have gotten the 4th down stop, but I need to stop myself. Ricardo, you got to stop. We got to stop. We got to talk about the positives. Javonte Williams, man, 20 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Longest rush was 13. And I really liked what I was seeing out of this run game, considering the fact that you had lost Tyler Guyton. There was a point where you had Nate Thomas play both sides of the offensive line. He was playing for Steele for a couple plays, and he was doing his thing for the most part at left tackle. We'll see what's going on with Guyton. But that's where this game ending in a tie, it says a lot about the status of your team. Because the fact of the matter is that your quarterback having to put up that performance just for you to have a chance to win a game is embarrassing. Dak Prescott's playing football at a level that is very on par with where he was at in 2020 when it came to the progression of him playing the quarterback position. And I understand that he gets a lot of criticism, and I understand that people want to talk about, oh, he could do this on the very, that's besides the point. If we're just talking about this game, which we are, Dak did everything he needed to do to win. Dude had a 4-touchdown game, and you couldn't get one stop for him. And you ran for 100 yards in this game as well. And the fact of the matter is, and this is the biggest highlight that I wanted to talk about, George Pickens showed why you made the trade for him. This is exactly what I talked about in the last show the other day, which was if the Dallas Cowboys are having any questions about George Pickens, he's answering every single one of them. The dude had a 2-touchdown night, 8 receptions, 134 yards, and he was targeted 11 times. That is exactly what the Dallas Cowboys needed to see from him. And for George Pickens, this was huge because if he's looking for the payday, like I said in the last episode of what we were talking about before this game, that's what we need to see. That's what he needs to do if he wants to get that big payday by the end of the year. And there are things that I'm liking what I'm seeing offensively that, okay, I'm seeing the vision. There's going to need to take some time for us to get there. But the fact of the matter is that the Cowboys coming away with a tie instead of a loss is huge. So for those that don't understand with the ties basically negate anything, the negative things that happen with a loss, and it also negates what you can get out of a win. So for the Cowboys, it's better than a loss, but again, should never have gotten to that point. I need to give a huge shout out with the $2 super chat from GGSTV. I think our defense is good, but just needed time. And I agree with you. And I was actually going to talk about that for my next point. When we look at what the Packers did offensively, yes, Jordan Love had basically a similar stat line to Dak Prescott, but there are a couple things that we need to really hone in on. The fact of the matter is that we understand that this defense does not have the equipped personnel to really get it done. I know a lot of us want to bash Matt Eberflus, and yes, he deserves criticism for putting certain guys in certain positions, but at the end of the day, the personnel that you have is just not enough. When you're in a situation where your linebackers and your corner, well, more specifically, your safeties are not doing their job, it shows. Your defensive line is doing its thing to an extent. And I understand with the pass rush and things of that accord, I think we only had 1 sack today. I could be wrong on that. Again, we're doing this live, so yeah, you only had 1 sack, but it was a crucial sack because that led to points. And this is exactly why the Dallas Cowboys are in the position they're in. It was funny because I was at a point where for the Cowboys, honestly, and maybe I'm crazy for saying this, they should have just gone for it because in the 4th down and on overtime, because the way that I look at it is that if you know your defense is where it's at, but again, you got them to a 4th down situation, you got them down there, and I thought that they weren't going to have McManus for the kick, but again, the Cowboys are 1-2-1 now, which is going to be weird to say throughout the season as we talk about their record. But I had them starting the year 2-2. I did think they were going to go 1-3 at this point, but the fact that you're 1-2-1, okay. But again, going about what we wanted to see with this team was growth. Offensively, we definitely saw some growth there. Defensively, not particularly, aside from getting a turnover. But again, you just needed 1 stop. When we talk about, I want to actually go to the team stats because this was something that bothered me to no end. When you look at this, I want you to, guys, the Packers were 10 for 14 on 3rd down. That is embarrassing. They were 1 for 1 on 4th down, and the only time they went for it on 4th down was when in the 4th and 6th situation where all you needed was 1 stop, but it's wide open over the middle. Now, looking at a couple other things, you only gave up the 1 sack, but, I don't even think they should have called it a sack for Micah Parsons, and I'm not trying to be petty or anything. It just felt like at the end of the day, the Dallas Cowboys offensively did enough for you to win this game. I mean, for God's sake, you put up 40 points. But the other thing, and I wanted to highlight this, was your special teams unit. Your special teams unit, man, is a problem. Now, I'm not talking about like Brandon Aubrey. I understand that Cavante Turpin has had some nice returns, but the amount of penalties that we are getting on special teams is becoming very infuriating. Nick Sorensen needs to figure out what is going on. But I'm not one for moral victories, but the fact of the matter is that it's just so annoying how we were constantly being told we had no chance in this game. And I said say that as well. I didn't think, but I did say in the show prior, they had the Packers as a 6.5 point favorite. What I did say was they needed to take cover the spread. I said you should cover the spread. And I think I said the under, but that's beyond cooked at this point. I mean, again, I'm going to harp on the defense a lot in this particular show. And where are we at? We got 13 minutes in so far. I mean, what are you like? Jack Sanborn. Oh my God, dude. I've been trying to be, with what I saw what he could do in Chicago. He's definitely regressed. He's not looking good at all. And for God's sakes, you can argue he was the reason you lost this game. Not only for what he did defensively, but the fact of the matter being is that the Packers literally almost shot themselves in the foot by what happened. I was so confused as to why they were letting time run out and then throw it. And this is what's crazy is that if Jack Sanborn doesn't turn around and that ball goes at the end of out of the end zone, the Cowboys win the game and we're having a different conversation about how the Packers blew this game. But this is where it's a time for reflection, right? With this Cowboys team, like I said, not just a bit ago, there is a vision of what we're seeing offensively. Regardless of what the personnel is, we were still able to run the ball. We were still able to get the passing game going and have easy buttons for Dak Prescott. And if he needed to make a tough throw, he was able to do that for you. He's playing very well for you right now. And what sucks is that this is going to cost you a year of him playing at this kind of level. There was a point in this game where I felt comfortable, and I'm not sure if you guys felt the same way. The fact that for the first time, I can literally watch the Packers score a touchdown with like a minute and some change to go, and me feel comfortable like, yo, Four's got this. And him doing what he did with George Pickens to score that touchdown to tie the game, or excuse me, to take the lead, would lead to the the tying field goal at 53 by McManus, which it's just so frustrating because we shouldn't be in this position whatsoever. We shouldn't be in a position where you're asking your like this is, and for reference, guys, what's scary is that the NFL, this was the second overtime game that the Cowboys have gone into overtime. This is the second time that the NFL has seen an overtime game this year. And you got away with the first one winning at the buzzer. And in this one, you didn't, but you didn't lose. You just tied. So one of the things that I also wanted to check was Tankathon. Tankathon is a website that I like to use where it shows you where exactly certain teams are slated to draft, because it would have been huge if the Cowboys came away with a loss here, or excuse me, when it came away with a win here and gave the Packers a loss, because we're on draft pick watch for the Green Bay Packers, and understandably so. Now, with the tie here, Green Bay was at 24. Now they're down to 20, and Dallas was at 13, and now they're at 12. So that pick is moving up for the Packers. But one of the things that I'm looking at is for the Micah Parsons end of things, he really didn't have a huge impact in this game like people thought he would. He was being held in check for the most part. He was in a position where the only time he made a couple impactful plays, which is crazy, was the one play where Dak was able to avoid a strip sack, and the sack, we'll call it, which was him coming from behind to save a touchdown, which I don't think Dak was going to get in on that play. So I don't really know how to feel about this. I'm upset that we didn't win, but the way that this game went, it made me feel like, okay, are we finally going to be moving in the right direction to where if we just figure out the defense, we'll be fine? And I think that for Matt Eberflus, it's really hard because we want to call for his job because of what's going on. But it's a mix of both. I would say that it's a mix of what you're trying to do defensively and the personnel you have, because at the end of the day, you have a guy in Donovan Ezeraku who, for some inexplicable reason, is being used as a defensive end when this dude should be a 3-4 linebacker, but that's besides the point. But it's just weird because we're seeing Shoddy start to understand what he needs to do situationally, and we saw that a lot in this game. And I don't know, guys. It's just really tough because you really wanted to come away with a win here so that you can gather some momentum, but you coming out of it with a tie is kind of says a lot. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention, as I had to go back and look at the stats, was the time of possession. It was basically even. The Dallas Cowboys had 11 penalties. Now, this is the other thing I wanted to talk about, was the boneheaded penalties. Ezeraku, Marist Leafau. What are we doing, guys? You got to know better in these situations. You had 11 penalties for 95 yards. And you can't afford to have these penalties because what ends up happening is that it negates these good plays that you're making. And so I'm looking at the other things here. You had the Dallas Cowboys be outgained. The Cowboys were 4 of 5 in the red zone. The Cowboys also, I got to see, what was crazy was when the Cowboys had the 4th down, it was a 4th and 2 call. That was a pretty ballsy call from Shoddy, for sure. And it's just really tough, again, to look at where you're at. And obviously, like, in the moment, we feel frustrated. But for the Packers, you needed Micah Parsons to really make an impact in this game. And don't give me the BS of, oh, he stopped the touchdown and all this other crap, which is fine. Yeah. But again, if you're kind of looking at it from the Packers angle of it, you're saying the same thing about the Dallas Cowboys, which was you were brought here to get pressure on this guy and make a difference, and you didn't do anything. Again, I love Micah to death, Penn State guy. I'm mad we lost to Oregon, but that's for another story, and I'm not for this show. But you, as a Packers fan, you're probably annoyed because you wanted to see more from Micah Parsons, who was held in check by guys like Nathan Thomas and even Tyler Guyton. Like, we got 276 people watching this, both on X/Twitter and YouTube. Thank you guys so much. I don't know how many people are actually watching this on YouTube, but again, I appreciate everyone for tuning in so much because I hope you guys are enjoying the show, and I love to see what you guys have to say because it's definitely been an intriguing show. So we're going to look at some comments we got here from Joseph. Rain was a wizard tonight. Absolutely. I completely agree. Dak Prescott was playing quarterback at a level that people want him to play at, and he did it at a level where he should have, well, not he should have, but you should have won the game as a team. Thank you, One-Handed, for reposting the stream. Some of the flags were horrible calls. Yeah, some of them were, but at the end of the day, you got to know better as a player. Like, that's just how it is. Let's see here. Pat, hopefully when Overshown returns, it's a big boost if we're still able to play meaningful games. But you should still be able to play meaningful games. Let's actually take a look at the Dallas Cowboys schedule. I apologize if the keyboard is a bit loud as we're kind of doing this on the fly. Okay. Let's see what we got here. So we play the Jets at MetLife next week. Then we play the Panthers on the road, the Commanders, and the Broncos. So those are your next 4 games in October. So you finish September where you're at. But again, I really do believe that in this next stretch of games, you should be able to beat the Jets. You should be able to beat the Panthers. Washington can give you troubles, but knowing where they're at right now, you should be able to take care of business. And the Broncos are a team the Cowboys haven't beat in Denver in a long, long time, like going back to the 90s. And they haven't won in New York against the Jets in a long time. So we got some stuff they got to change there. But season isn't over. I think that, again, we're kind of going through 2020 all over again. This very much so felt like, well, it just felt like the Giants game like last time. You couldn't get one singular stop. And again, you can't. And not to go on a bit of a tangent about Rain Dakota Prescott, but this is where I get annoyed with Cowboys fans. Cowboys fans, we're in a position where they were talking about, like, we need to have conversations if we don't win enough games with Dakota at the helm, right? Rain Dakota Prescott. What do you want him to do? Like, I understand we talk about the playoffs. I understand that. But if we're having a conversation, like, I want you to think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Lamar Jackson, I understand he got hurt. 1-3. I almost said the tie again. God bless. But the Ravens are 1-3. Okay? And you see how loaded that team is on both sides of the ball. But Dak Prescott has to play better given the situation and with his front office giving him less to work with. That's insane to me. And there are these same fans, and if you're watching this, you know who I'm talking about. There are these same fans that literally told me with a straight face, oh, he needs to overcome the deficiencies of the front office. That's what he's paid to do. And if you believe that, fine, that's your opinion. I'm not going to tell you how you should believe, but I'll be honest with you. If you really think that, you're a dumbass. I'll be honest with you. I'll keep it candid. Because what other organization says to their quarterback, yo, I just want to give you a heads up. The defense sucks. You kind of need to work around that. Just saying. Like, who does that? I mean, for God's sake, you had Jalen Hurts when again, and I'm not trying to throw shade at Jalen Hurts. I'm just trying to point the fact of the matter being that there are teams that put their quarterbacks in better positions than the Cowboys do. Jalen Hurts won a game without having, I think it was like he had no yards, passing yards in the second half of the game. I don't think he completed a pass. And we want to sit here and hold Dak to this ridiculous standard that he needs to be like a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes alien just for you to have a chance to win, not even win a championship. Jesus, I can't even talk because I'm so annoyed. Just to have a chance to win a game, he needs you to put up 40 points. That's not winning football, guys. What are we doing? And WB said it best. What other quarterback has to win like this? Exactly. And that's where, as a Cowboys fan, I am annoyed because we should have won this game. This is the second time this season you've put up 40-plus points. You put up 40 points and you couldn't win this game. You didn't lose, but you couldn't win this game. So I really should talk about Shoddy because I know there have been plenty of Cowboys fans that have been critical on him and what's going on. This is where I want to give him his flowers, okay? When we talk about what you need to do to win football games, especially in the postseason, you need to be able to, one, run the ball as effectively as you can. And number two, you need to be able to stop the run. Now, the Cowboys in this particular game, I had to go back and look at the stats. You know, Josh Jacobs, he did have a solid night running the football. The Packers had 164 rushing yards, 35 attempts. This was the one game where you were kind of getting gashed in the run game. Now, the thing is you're getting gashed on the edges still. That's still a problem. And so I think that for me, at least, there were a couple things that with Schottenheimer, I thought that when how you're running the football and being able to slow the pace down, cool. But there are moments where, like, there's the one play where it was a 4th and 1. And this, I was about to, like, as I'm watching the game, I'm like, I'm going to flame this dude if this happens again. And if you know what I'm talking about and you watch the previous shows, it's the situation where you're going up, it's a 4th and short. There's this idea that you're going to go for it, and then you use a timeout. Like, what are we doing? This go around, you did it again, but you at least took the delay of game. But this is where I really wish, if you really want dudes to jump, if you really want dudes to have that threat of, oh, they might actually go for it, then go for it. Like, I really could care less. Have some big balls on you. Go for it. And with the situational play calling, right? One of the things is that, again, because he is a play caller, there are different aspects to how he's managing the football team. So when we talk about what happened on the offensive side of the ball, you ran the ball pretty effectively, if I do say so myself. Yeah, you averaged 4.5 yards per carry, but you were making 3rd down and shorts. You were giving Dak Prescott easy button options, which is what you want to do with a quarterback. Because sometimes it's like, yo, like, if I need to make a big play, like, you're having that idea manifest. Now, Dak did miss a couple things, and I'm not trying to flame him for that. It's just, you know, it's how it is. Like, you had Turpin wide open on one play. There was another play where Pickens was open, but again, depending on how the play is going, it is what it is. But if it's, again, when you're throwing the ball 40 times a game and you miss, like, and there was another one where he overshot Tolbert, but if you have only 3 passes that I'm complaining about out of the 40 that you made, I think you had a pretty damn good game. Now, where Schottenheimer, I think, needs to do a better job is, again, I really think that when we got into the goal line situation of, you know, okay, it's, you had the big pass play with Dak Prescott, and I really think that you shouldn't be afraid to run Dak Prescott. Like, we saw him score a touchdown on a QB draw. I understand it was like a 2-yard rush. But I think that in that situation, it would have thrown the Packers off. Now, do the Cowboys end up winning the game? No, but you want to put yourself in a position where you got to understand, right? Okay, my defense hasn't gotten me a stop all freaking night. I'm either going to lose this game or it's going to end in a tie. And the thing is again, and maybe I'm just being harsh, but again, I just think that we'll be fine. I mean, I got to stop because the way that I'm looking at it is that when you're in a situation where you know it's a first-time head coach, you understand, like as Cowboys fans, right? We understood that this team wasn't going to win a championship. We know that, like we understand that. But if we really want to see this team actually win long term, we need to see the identity of what this football team is. And we're seeing that. They're able to run the ball. They're using motion a ton more in the pre-snap. And then on top of that, yes, there are some penalties offensively that hurt you. But at the end of the day, you're allowing your quarterback to settle in. And I think that as long as the Dallas Cowboys figure it out, and if the trend goes how 2020 and 2024 went, those defenses ended up settling in towards the tail end of the year. And had you had your quarterback, you probably end up making the playoffs as a 9-8 team. Well, 9-7 in 2020 because you didn't have 17 games yet. But to me, I think that's where I'm looking at it as a Cowboys fan, is that as we touched up on it, and I even said this in the video, is that historically speaking, new head coaches and first-time head coaches more specifically add 2 additional wins to last year's win total. That's just what it looks like. So for the Cowboys, now that they can't, because they tied, to me, if they end up going, let's just say 8-1, which would be that'd be funny. If they go 8-1, that's considered an improvement. But again, because you tied, it's going to look weird on the stat sheet. No. Let's see. Shoddy called a masterful game today. I thought he did very well given the situation. And NWB, Josh Allen has won quite a few games without scoring a touchdown in one. Exactly. Like, that's how you win football games. And then Stevie Mac, I like how Shoddy is using Turpin. Now, we look forward now to the Jets game. And these are these games that you're coming up where you need to be able to stack some wins. The Jets, they lost to the Steelers. They lost to the Bills. They lost to the Bucks. They're so far 0-3. They will play tomorrow night against the Dolphins. I really don't want to be in a position where I'm being a trap game. You know, like I really don't want to be seeing that. I'm really curious, though. I got to check what my buddy just told me because he was saying something like Dak leads the league in passing, but I don't think he does, actually. I'm sorry if I'm pausing. I'm just trying to find out where he's at statistically. Where is it at? Okay, so I believe he's 5th. Or no, they didn't count today's passing stats yet. Fantastic. Right, Michael. And that's the thing is, like, I watched the game back. They should have let the time run out. Freaking, you know what's like that irked me so badly. You know, like the fact of the matter being that, like, we couldn't, you know what I mean? Like, we couldn't just walk away. It's always something with Green Bay, right? Did they update the stat sheet? I don't think they did because I think Dak leads the league in Green. This is an actually interesting question. Is Green Bay overhyped? Here's where, and Michael, I'm not sure if you saw the segment, and thank you for 300 people watching. Again, before I get into this topic of conversation, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them because it's kind of like a live show at this point where we're just kind of going off script. I think that for Green Bay, knowing that coming into this game, you have historically owned the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. Last time you played them, you blew them out. You have Micah Parsons, who was to come to this team and put you over the top as a championship team. And you tied with a team that by no business should have been in this game if we're really keeping it a bean. I thought the game was honestly over after the second touchdown because it really felt like the Cowboys were going to just pack it in. But again, I just think that it's a long season. And this is kind of what I wanted to get at. It's a long season. Teams are still trying to figure themselves out. You have teams like the Eagles that have won all these one-possession games no matter the circumstances. You've had instances where people were calling out the Chiefs, and then you see what happened with Patrick Mahomes. He went off. And I want to provide some clarity. The Dallas Cowboys actually have a better record than the Baltimore Ravens. I'm not saying that they're a per se better team when it comes to the roster construction, but I'm just trying to point out the fact that this is a team, like the Cowboys are in a position where we're looking so negatively on this team. No one's really talking about the deficiencies of other teams and how they've not played or been coached. So I think that as long as you're having an honest conversation, there's that. Let's see. Dak was leading the league at one point. Now I really need to find out. I hate this so much. I really wish these were updated on the fly. Oh, hold on. I don't think that they counted Dak's stats yet. They didn't. They didn't yet. Okay. So how many, what was it? He had 300 yards. Let me look. Sorry, guys. I think that this is actually because there's a reason. And there's a reason I'm getting at this. What is this? Like, I hate this so much. All right, let's go to the 2025 season. Oh my God, this is so annoying, man. They don't want to. All right, I got to do some math. Get the calculator out, guys. Here we go. All right, so we have 319 plus 800. So he has 119 passing yards, and I believe. So Dak Prescott actually does lead the league in passing. If I could find Jordan Love, yes. So Dak Prescott leads the league in passing by 5 yards so far. And what's insane to me is that usually that when you have a dude that is leading the league in passing yards, that is an indication that that team defensively isn't good enough. That's why there's a huge stat where if you lead the league in passing, typically that's not a good sign for your defense, depending on the situation. I think there have been instances where, like, you've had instances where Jameis Winston led the league in passing with like 5,000 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. But like, it's because that defense is so bad. But Showtime, what's going on, my man? We have a chance at second place coming up soon. Too early in the season because, like I said, the schedule was soft coming up, and Washington losing to Green Bay along with their road record coming up is good. Yeah, and that's a good point to bring up. And this is why the tie helps you in the long term, because if you're in a position where it comes down to the wins and losses, usually a tie doesn't hurt you, but it doesn't help you. So we'll see how things go. Now, with us being a quarter of the season in, I don't think the Cowboys are in the playoffs, actually, but I'm just curious to see where they're seated, just for reference point. Okay. Now, the Dallas Cowboys actually are the 13th seed so far because of the fact of what happened tonight. Now, had the Cowboys won this game, I believe they would have still been 13th, but that's because of tiebreakers and stuff like that. But we tied. So I think with how long we're going here, I definitely want to close things out because I am tired. I got to do some more research on this defense, because that's going to be this upcoming week's video is talking about how we're doing defensively and how we actually got here, especially with the draft picks from the Mike McCarthy era. But this is just, it's a game where you needed to win if you want it, but you didn't lose. And it sucks because now you're in a position where you kind of need to work your way back to 500. But if this game told me anything, is that the Packers needed this game more than the Cowboys did. And this isn't a cope or anything. This is just being straight up honest with you. The Dallas Cowboys had no business being in this game, had no business trying to win this game. The Packers were supposed to dominate them. And for the Cowboys to come out of this like this, that's great. But I'm just so frustrated with the defense, man. I really wish we did better. But before we close out, I'll give it 5 more minutes. If anybody has any questions, concerns, any topics of conversation, feel free to ask them now. 303 people watching both on Twitter/X and YouTube. I'll do the little pleasantries really quickly while I wait for questions to come in. If you're watching this on YouTube, by all means, hit the like button. It's free. It helps the channel out in the algorithm. Subscribe if you're new for more Cowboys content. Hit the notification bell. And if you want to support the channel further, there's that join icon. Helps me out, helps the network out. That'd be great. Don't have to do it, but I always like to point that out. If you're on Twitter/X, hit the follow button, like this stream, share it, you name it. If you want to follow me on YouTube, you can click the link in my bio. It will direct you to my YouTube page so you can follow me there. Now, I'm going to see if we have any questions before I close this out in the next 4-ish minutes. And in fact, while we're waiting for that, I'm going to just look on Twitter to see what people are saying, because this was a game that I'm pretty sure many people... Sorry. So everyone was pointing out the the time should have ran out. And Dak had a fantastic game. His EPA per play was off the charts. All right, sorry about that. All right, we're going to have this last question. I meant to ask this one on the last stream, and I know he played better tonight, but I have an idea. What do you think about moving Trevon to safety? I mean, I don't really know, because at the end of the day, I don't think he would. I mean, I really don't want to be doing that, honestly. What's that? I'm thinking in the vein of guys who couldn't probably can't run well anymore. Okay, no, I see what you're saying. To me, though, I think that I would move him to safety if it was like a last resort situation. Because for me, you paid him to be a corner. You want him to be a corner. He played better this game. And I think there's not enough data to support how he would play at that position. But the other thing, too, is that, and I think this is where Diggs, there was a couple plays where he gives up the plays. But if your safety play isn't good and you're not getting a pass rush, your defense is going to get exposed. And so that's why we see Diggs or Bland or some of these corners getting burnt. I would say most of the time. So there's that. Well, all right, guys, I need to head off for the night. It is 1 a.m. on the East Coast, but I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Again, please make sure to do all the pleasantry stuff, like, subscribe, whatever. I'll see you guys on the next show next week, but keep an eye out for content as we're posting it here on Kretschman Media. All right, guys, with that, I hope you have a blessed rest of your night, and I really wish we won this game, but it is what it is. All right, have a good one. Goodbye.